Hello and welcome back to another live stream. This is your Manchester City West Ham United match reaction. It finished Manchester City 3, West Ham United 1. Obviously, I don't know whether ulterior motives is the right phrase, but that was the case today. If ulterior motives is what I think it means, for sure. And this means this result meant today that obviously we were going to finish ninth regardless of today's result, whether we had lost, drawn, or won, got battered, or whatever. We would have finished ninth due to the fact that we've barely won a league game throughout this calendar year, and also just our general poor form. What I will say is congratulations to Manchester City. And a nice little hold that to the Arsenal fans. And this stream is going to be a bit of a mix of everything, talking West Ham, Manchester City, and Arsenal as well. Because from a West Ham point of view, when you see Jared Bowen out, Aaron Cresswell coming in to make a back three, Mavropanos is back, and stuff like that, Moyes is still somewhat trying to get a result or whatever out of this game. But I mean, it is what it is, isn't it? It is what it is. It is what it is. Like, I don't want to win today. Like, I'll happily say I didn't want to win today, because I don't want to see Arsenal fans happy, and we didn't have anything to play for. It's funny, Everton could have actually got a result at Arsenal at one point, but that didn't happen. And luckily, it was quite an easy game for Manchester City. I would say from a Manchester City point of view, it's quite easy from their point of view. Just be patient. They were still finding passes within the low block that we were setting out and the shape. And obviously, it's going to be hard to break down a 5-3-2 shape regardless, or a 5-4-1 shape anyway. But they were patient and they showed their quality in the end. I'm not sure more. Like when you see substitutions like Emerson coming off for Alvarez, I think you'd like. Do you really want to win the game? I don't think you do. I don't think you give a shit either. But that's the kind of subs that Moyes in general would make anyway. But that was Moyes' last game as well. That was Moyes' last game as a West Ham manager. Obviously, a big thank you to David Moyes for everything that he's done. But this needed to come to an end. And we move on to the Lopetegui era, which apparently the announcement might be tomorrow. I'm not too sure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put notifications on maybe for West Ham. I'm not too sure. I might put I usually put notifications on every year when there's transfer news and stuff, and we're still quite far away from that. Obviously, there's still transfer news happening in like May and stuff, but usually you start seeing the proper active stuff in like June, July, August, and there's been some good reports recently of whether West Ham are gonna rebuild and rejuvenate the squad, etc. But I want to share a couple things. By the way, if you are watching this, let me know if audio is fine when I share a video. Because apparently, have a look at this. Now you see Arsenal fans celebrating there. That was because they thought that West Ham United scored another goal to make it 2-2. They thought it was an equaliser and someone stirred up the room or whatever, and that still happened. Which is, for me, it's absolutely hilarious. The fact that Arsenal fans generally thought that West Ham scored 2 goals at the Etihad and ran with that was sensational. And a lot of Arsenal fans, I want to talk about them because they always refer back to the same things. When they fail to reach whatever the target that they get, they refer back to the same excuses. Now, the last 2 years, when Arsenal have been in title races, for example, obviously when they're in the lead and stuff, in terms of leading the league, they're always like, okay, we've got the best players in these positions, etc. But when it comes down to crunch time, A lack of accountability is there, and also the excuses come out in terms of, okay, but Man City have got charges. Well, you're not really talking about the charges when you're leading the league. I don't think the charges came into account when you lost against West Ham at your ground, against Villa at your ground, against Fulham at their ground. But what I will say, Arsenal are a very good team. Solid defense, dangerous attack. Odegaard keeps the play ticking. Declan Rice adding a new element to their team. But constant excuses every time it comes to crunch time of the season and stuff. Oh, this was horrendous as well. Let me share this. I'm on my bookmarks for Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, GVO Mikes on Twitter. What the fuck is this? What on earth is this? Look how disgusting that is. I don't know whether this is from today, because this is an old. Actually, it probably is, because this is still the new Arsenal kit because of the yellow thing. This is the lockdown West Ham kit. This should never be a thing. As much as you Arsenal fans would want us to do this whole, well, West Ham and Arsenal are rivals, which I get. My hatred for Arsenal doesn't even come from a West Ham perspective. It comes from the fact that Arsenal fans are very dislikable. But also, we are not friends either. We are far from friends. We have no affiliation towards each other. A lot of people are asking, well, why do West Ham and Manchester City have an affiliation? It's very random. If you watch my stream with Big Steve, it goes back to the 80s and stuff. And I've discussed this before on the channel last summer. If you are a long-term subscriber, I've made a video on why West Ham and Manchester City have an affiliation with each other, and some have come out in the comments to talk differently about it. But if we had something to play for, like maybe Champions League football or something like that, or maybe just try to get Europa League or whatever, or try to get into the Conference League, I would be probably a bit more frustrated with the fact that we didn't go out and try and win today. But we had nothing to play for today. We were ninth. It was a great goal by Kudus. It was a great goal. He set up his own overhead kick for himself. And this is the thing: if we had, as I just said, if we had something to play for, today would have been great. It would have been great, and I would have actually rooted for us to, try and go and smash him. I didn't understand this either. I'm going to show you something else. Show you guys something else as well, because I bookmarked this for a reason. What the fuck is this? Why has someone got number 20? I'm assuming that's a Thomas Souček shirt because he's number 28. Why is an Arsenal fan got a West Ham shirt in the crowd? Like, for a long time of that game, they weren't even winning themselves. And I watched that game in the background. Everton had chances as well. They were on the counter-attack, but Bukayo Saka wasn't in the squad. As Sully says from Top Boy, don't beg, it's disgusting. I'm glad that Manchester City are champions, so am I. So am I. Another argument that people put forward is, well, don't you want the league? Don't you want someone different to win the league? Well, West Ham aren't winning it, so it's none of my business. Also, this probably happens for every title charge, but let me just share this as well. Preparations for Arsenal's potential Premier League title victory if they win tomorrow and City lose/draw to game to West Ham. And that's the only time you're going to see it today. That's the only time you're going to see it today is via that tweet. Well, and a lot of Arsenal fans will be like, well, West Ham aren't going to win the league. I never said we were. We're not even going for the league. I never said we were going to win the league. I never will. We probably never will. We'll probably never be in a position to win the league. Because, I don't know, it just doesn't seem realistic in my head as much as I would love to win the league, ideally. But it doesn't make any sense when Arsenal fans come out with these excuses. I'm going to go and talk about the game again. Obviously, we lost 3-1 and stuff. Did anyone expect anything different? Like I'm pretty sure I predicted 7-0. Because I literally said this to Stephen LB on the streams, like, if they really wanted to, they could put 10 past us if they really wanted to. Let's go to the lineups. Let me just get the lineups quick. of the Man City game. Now, this lineup, yeah, Areola did all he could to keep everything out. Made a lot of saves. They were targeting him though back post, so he was struggling with that. And he probably should have saved the third goal. Zuma running in quicksand. He didn't do much wrong, but is what it is. Emerson played well. Cresswell didn't do much wrong. Mavropanos played weirdly well for a game that doesn't really require much to play for at all. Just professionalism. Maybe he wanted to win it for Arsenal, I guess. Ward-Prowse clearly hated Arsenal because he played shit today. There's a lot of discourse on Ward-Prowse. I maintain the fact that he was a good footballer at Southampton and the fact that he can fit in a possession-based side under Lopetegui. But regardless of whether I would like to keep Ward-Prowse or sell Ward-Prowse, we need a box-to-box midfielder anyway. Like, for example, someone like Thomas Souček for me needs to go. Don't get me wrong, Thomas Souček actually played well in terms of clearances and blocks and stuff, and we'll see how serious this manager is when it comes to players in the squad because this guy's not good enough. He's not good enough, and it's players like Souček and his country mate Vladimir Sufo who got ripped by Doku. The lack of mobility is scary from Vladimir Sufo. The lack of mobility, the lack of ability, the lack of technical ability, etc. Like all of that kind of stuff is just it's important. It's important, especially when you're coming up against someone like Jeremy Doku. And Jeremy Doku was going inside, he was going outside, and he gave him a bad time. It was at least in a home game against Manchester City, Sufal came up against Doku and held his own. Was very good 1v1 at times, but also got ripped at times. So it was a battle. I have to say, it was a battle. However, this one was completely one-sided. And Sufal is probably going to look at. There was rumours of him looking at his long-term future anyway. Well, that's just common sense. Obviously, he's going to look at his long-term future. But again, it is what it is. Emerson were playing left wing back, kind of left midfield. How Moyes used to play three at the back when we had Aaron Cresswell and Masuaku playing with each other. Not in that way. Where Masuaku would sometimes go left midfield and left wing back at the same time. But yeah, Emerson did all he could. Apart from my only criticism was when he went through a goal, he maybe should have had a shot. Not that I wanted us to win today, but if I'm just looking at it from an objective point of view, that's something that he should have done today because he did well to run through a lot of players. Like Mama Kudus was probably our best player going forward. Paquetá played all right. Combined with Kudus, that's probably the last time we're going to see Paquetá in a West Ham shirt. Unless Manchester City don't pay the money, as I said to Steve, I wouldn't take any less than a release clause, but I do think he is going. Again, congratulations to Manchester City. 4 in a row cannot be understated as well. I do think that a lot of people make excuses for, like, listen, when you're the bigger and better your team gets, the more haters you're going to get. That's why a lot of people don't like Arsenal now anyway. Like, I didn't like Arsenal anyway, but the fact that Arsenal are good, I'm obviously going to hope in their downfall because I don't want them to win anything. The same way more people are going to hope on their downfall if they're around the same places as Arsenal anyway. Man United, when they were really good, when they were dominating the whole league, it was the same with them. I didn't like Man United, but it was mainly because of their cocky fans when they were winning stuff. And I was like, all right, I hope you don't win anything. Same with Chelsea. Same with everyone that wants to win stuff. That's going to come with it. So with Manchester City, my main thing is that fact that even though Pep is the best manager, one of the best managers of all time, he probably doesn't get the credit that he deserves. He's probably second best manager in the Premier League of all time under Sir Alex. People are still going to say Sir Alex because of the eras that he dominated in as well, and for the fact that how many trophies he did win and how many Premier Leagues he did win. I'm not sure whether Pep is going to try and overtake Fergie. I doubt that will happen, but what I will say is it depends on him. That all depends on him. For as long as he stays, he's going to still keep winning trophies. Also, the fact that he manages to evolve this Manchester City side every season by playing the same brand of football, but changing the different ways of doing it in terms of formation, in terms of structure, in terms of the instructions that the certain players get in their squad, or where certain people play, like putting Stones into midfield from centre back, uh, doing a flat back four centre backs, having Bernardo Silva and Grealish on the wings in the treble season, recycling possession. Foden in the middle this season, slowly taking on Kevin De Bruyne's role in the middle. They both played in the middle. They both were really good against us today. And this is the thing: when you look at the bigger picture in a title race, Arsenal could win it eventually. I think for as long as Pep's there, Pep is going to bring Man City to win it, because he's going to keep evolving that Manchester City side. Whether it's Savio's going to them, and they've got Juan Cuoto, or whatever his name is, coming back from Girona, who they've been making waves in Girona. I've only watched like a game or two of Girona, so I don't really know how they play week in, week out. But they're going to be there as well. They're interested in, obviously, Paquetá, Gimaresh in a deeper role and stuff like that. And it depends who leaves. It depends who leaves Manchester City. Are they going to even have any players leave? They're going to need cover for Rodri, and a very good cover for Rodri, for when the few games that Rodri is suspended, they don't lose. Because Rodri still hasn't lost a Premier League game, still hasn't lost a game in 90 minutes, technically. And the only game he was beaten was a penalty shootout. Well, two penalty shootouts. The one with Arsenal was by the Community Shield, and Real Madrid in the Champions League. And for as long as Rodri's there, that's the longer they're going to stay unbeaten, undefeated, etc. Throughout their games in the season. But Manchester City, if they have got someone to fill in for Rodri in a few games that he is suspended for, they will become even better. But that's the truth. That's the truth. They will become even better, because they can keep evolving their side. And that's what proves a great team, a world-class team, and a world-class manager. Now, what does this mean for the bigger picture of West Ham United and stuff like that? Well, it's going to be tough next season. I think we all know that. It's going to be tough next season. I'm not expecting anything for the first season, but what I'm not expecting is a relegation battle either. That should be unnegotiable, or non-negotiable, may I say. And for me, any talk of relegation battle, nonsense. This team should not be in a... if we evolve the team, it shouldn't be in a relegation battle. If we don't do the rebuild that we need, then we will be in a relegation battle. And that's including the likes of Aaron Cresswell, including the likes of Vladimir Sufel, Thomas Souček, etc. I'm just trying to find the news stuff of West Ham United and the stuff coming up in the summer. So let me try and get this up, because there's a lot of new stuff. I want to big up... hold on, let me share my screen first, then I can explain myself. I want to big up East London Hammers for the tweet. Big up, obviously, ex-West Ham employee in the West Ham way for the original source. Obviously, ex-West Ham employee is very reliable. We understand that Tim Steidten is looking forward to completely revolutionize the club's process of recruiting players with a modern data-driven approach adopted. Now, whether people think that's a good thing or a bad thing, what I will say is what a lot of modern clubs do, is what a lot of selling clubs do, unfortunately. But also, I feel like this club does need a different way of recruiting, and we should trust this technical director to lead us that way. The reason why I say that is because this guy is the same guy that worked with Xabi Alonso and Bayer Leverkusen last year as a technical director, so we should trust him. And as long as that's all approved and stuff, that's perfect. It's perfect. And that is needed at this club. If we make the right signings, we will finish top 6 next season. Do you know what? You never know. You never know. I don't expect it first season, but pre-season's important. To include the new signings, trying to get in before the season starts, like pre-season, like proper pre-season games. Like all 4 of our signings that we signed didn't get a pre-season. They were all signed in August. And that has happened over the years. I think I can't remember what stream I did this on. I think I did this a few streams ago when I went through a couple of the transfer windows, and a lot of the players that we signed isn't during pre-season. But there's been reports about we would like to sign players during pre-season or just before pre-season, but it's also going to be hard due to international tournaments, which I will keep repeating on videos because what happened the last time there was a Euros, we signed players after the Euros. But that also shouldn't be an excuse because there's going to be a lot of players that aren't called up to their international squads that we will sign, I imagine. There's obviously talk about James Ward-Prowse or someone else being a captain next season. A bit of change of captain, change of manager, whatever it is. A lot of I don't even know who could be captain at this club. I don't think Bowen's a captain for me. Bowen's just one of our best players. Doesn't mean he's captain material. I don't see any leadership in Jared Bowen. There's nothing against him, but why would I put captain on Jared Bowen? Maybe an Alvarez. Like Alvarez as captain makes sense for me. That makes more sense than a Jared Bowen, in my opinion. It's nothing against Jared Bowen, of course, but as we're talking captaincy, and obviously all comes down to what does Lopetegui want at this club? What does he want? Alvarez should be captain. Yeah, I agree. And this is all going to come down to how does Lopetegui see the team? Does he feel like there's still players that need to leave? Because if he's ruthless enough, someone like Kurt Zouma should probably be his last game for West Ham. Again, Soufal, Souček, Cresswell's probably leaving on a free. He shouldn't be given a year extension. We need to buy a left back that has enough competition with Emerson and stuff like that. And yeah, there's a lot of players that probably couldn't feel like that's their last game. Antonio can play a part. Ward-Prowse can play a part. Maxwell Cornet should probably get revived. I hope that West Ham won and Arsenal tie. That would still mean Arsenal win the league because on goal difference, I think. Oh wait, no, you're right. No. Sorry, I got that wrong. But I hear you because that obviously the ideal scenario would have been. Yeah, no, sorry, Blank, I got that wrong. The ideal scenario would have been that both Everton and West Ham got something, but that was never going to happen. So, yeah, I hear you. The thing is that I would happily be a sacrifice just to not see Arsenal win the league. And listen, we've got some good Arsenal fans that have come on the channel before. Jay a couple years ago, my good mate Jay, and my good mate Alfie, who's been on a couple of streams. We've got some good Arsenal fans, and I'll probably get a couple more on the channel as well over the summer and stuff. But however, there are a lot of bad Arsenal fans, and not just online, in real life as well. Like Arsenal fans in real life, Jesus Christ, there's a lot of bad ones, man. A lot of toxic ones. That's why most people that have nothing to do with Arsenal don't want them to win the league. That's why even some Liverpool fans don't want Arsenal to win the league. That's why people like me, who's a West Ham fan, I would have never wanted them to win the league, even if they didn't have Declan Rice. It's not a Declan Rice thing. Declan Rice is the last thing I would hate about Arsenal. Don't get me wrong, it's funny to see him sob because he doesn't play for my club anymore. It's funny, don't get me wrong. But I have nothing against the guy. I have literally nothing. Well, Declan Rice did all he could for the club. He left on a good note, and it is what it is. I didn't want him to go to Arsenal, but West Ham to Arsenal has never been a snake move, in my opinion. I don't call him a West Ham legend because I think there's other players that have done more for the club that are regarded as West Ham legends. And yeah, I would put him in cult hero status, but I wouldn't call him a West Ham legend. However, I wouldn't call him a snake either. I've done a video on this as well. I would never ever call him a snake because he didn't go to a Chelsea or a Tottenham, God forbid a Millwall. And Arsenal was never really one of those clubs. Like people are like, but he moved to another London club. A lot of people moved to another London club using that logic. Then Issa Diop's a snake for moving to Fulham. Scott Parker's a snake for moving to Tottenham. But Scott Parker his transfer had a bit more context. Joe Cole's a snake. People like Joe Cole. Joe Cole's a snake then. Um, there's a lot of players that, but Connor Coventry's a snake for moving to Charlton in January. Like, what are we doing? Like, that's bad luck. Is James Tompkins a snake for moving to Crystal Palace? Cheika Kouyaté a snake for moving to Crystal Palace? Like, Crystal Palace is not a team where I see someone being a snake either. Like, or Arsenal. It's Chelsea, Tottenham, Millwall. That's a snake move. The reason why people call Paul Ince a snake is because there was pictures of him in a different shirt before the transfer was actually made. But that was all done by his agent and stuff. Lampard is not a snake. He got abused out of this club. But Lampard's a you know what. So don't get me wrong, he had every right to react to the West Ham fans the way he did. But when it kept dragging on, that rivalry is always going to be there. And the rivalry of West Ham Chelsea was there before Lampard. So I'm not calling Declan Rice a snake, and I never will. But I do not give a shit that whether he does well or not. I don't want him to do well because he's at Arsenal. I think it's because they act like they're right to win the league, like no other team deserves it. Yeah, that's the thing as well. Like when Arsenal get into a certain position, Arsenal fans will hype up that player or to be one of the best in the position, whether it's in the world or in the league, and also they'll hype up their team as one of the best in the world in the league. But it always comes to the business end of the season, whether this one was fine margins, but also just in general, that Arsenal never go through with their target. And then their fans make excuses. Then their fans will be like, don't worry, next year. It's going to come to a point where if it keeps happening every year, when does their patience stop with maybe certain players, maybe the manager, etc., etc.? That's just my opinion. Like, when does their thing stop? Because they can keep saying, I'm seeing something, but if this is your best Arsenal team in years, which it is, surely you need to leave with at least a trophy. Because you want to feel like you're leaving a benchmark on something, you know? Team's true colours come out in the UCL. Yeah, I feel like you also got to have a lot more street smartness for cup competitions. And you got to have a whole new mindset going against Europe's elite. I get it's their first season in the Champions League, but that was a Bayern Munich side that came third. Which, for Bayern Munich standards, that's a bad season. And listen, it was a terrible season with Bayern Munich. But just coming third as Bayern Munich, that's mad. Like, Arsenal came second in the Premier League. And the Premier League's meant to be regarded as a better league than the Bundesliga. Like, who's better, Man City or Leverkusen? That's probably a debate. So, they came up against Bayern, but Bayern have had more know-how as well. Arsenal don't have it. Arsenal players didn't have any know-how in the Champions League because barely any of them were experienced apart from Zinchenko, Jesus, Havertz, and Jorginho, Partey. Those are the five that come to mind. Where maybe Saliba. I don't know whether Saliba played Champions League with Marseille, but those are the players that had know-how in the Champions League, and a lot of their players were new to it. So I don't know what they want. A lot of Arsenal fans want different things. A lot of Arsenal fans want they'll be just happy with top four. Some Arsenal fans are just happy to be there in the conversation. Some Arsenal fans just want trophies. A lot of them want different things. So depending on what they want, if they haven't met your standards, then by all means go in on your team. But a lot of these fans are just like any other football fans, but just 10 times more. Where when it comes to coping with your team falling short, and what Arsenal do every season is fall short of their own target, and then they make excuses all the time. This happens every year. I would never want to see them happy when they're always like, oh, when you come into the parade and stuff during the season. My DMs, by the way, were very active after that 6-0. I've not heard from one person today. I've not heard from one person that was an Arsenal fan today. And what I mean is that I had a couple of friends that you've seen the people on the channel, Jay from a couple of seasons ago when we did the Premier League predictions, and you've seen Alfie on this channel. Them two DM me after 6-0, they didn't even go at me. I had some Arsenal fans that I haven't talked to in about 10 years, roughly. Not hi, no, how are you? Just 6-0 this and that. My DMs are very quiet today. And I wonder why. Maybe they can't send a message without crying on their phone, or maybe they're just too depressed and they're just lying in their bed trying to get an early nap or an early sleep due to the fact that Manchester City have won 4 leagues in a row. But yeah, my DMs have been quiet today. I wonder why. I do wonder why. But that's Arsenal for you. That's Arsenal summed up. By the way, Tilo Kehrer scored for Monaco today. That's funny. Big up to Tilo Kehrer. I kind of knew he was leaving in January because it was kind of obvious that his buy option was going to get triggered due to the Champions League place that Monaco got. And also, I made the farewell video in January. I talked about him already. Wrong player under the wrong manager. The manager and players' philosophies do not align. He's even said it coming out playing in a low block all the time and stuff like that. When he first signed for the club, he was talking about the project of West Ham, so he's clearly sold some sort of project to play progressive football and stuff like that. That didn't work out because Moyes couldn't coach that, and that's why he's gone to Monaco. So just be decided that can actually play football. At right back, the guy was a good player. Not always a good player, but for example, Alkmaar semi-final, Tilo Kehrer top player. Top player. That semi-final, both legs were against AZ Alkmaar. Tilo Kehrer class, and he can be gutted in himself that he didn't even start the final, but Soufal held his own in that final against Fiorentina. But Kehrer also came on for Zuma at centre back, and also held his own there as well. He was never a centre back for me. He actually made a mistake on his debut against Brighton, but good luck to him at Monaco because he deserves a place where he can thrive. And there's another player that didn't really get a chance under the right circumstances. It's the same thing we're seeing with Scamacca. Obviously, Scamacca wanted to leave and go back to Italy anyway. I think he would have rather gone to Italy than played under David Moyes football in a country that he didn't really settle into in the first place, but also a style of football that he didn't settle into in the first place, and a team that didn't really build around him. He had to build himself around a team. And that Scamacca sell also hurt me as well. But I don't know whether I'm going to do watch-alongs anymore, but yeah. He's finally gone. Yes, Fuego, he is finally gone. That is the manager's last game. Thank God this season is over. Thank God this season is over. Before I get into David Moyes, I want to say this quickly, guys. Now, some of you lot in the chat, and I'm going to need your help for this. There's nothing to do with subscribers or anything like that. Now, content. I'm going to be streaming more. I'll still do pre-recorded vids, but I'm going to be streaming more. Whether it's videos like this, whether it's transfer news and stuff like that, whether it's match reactions. My match reactions next season are going to be live instead of pre-recorded, so it'll be longer. But also, do you guys like watch-alongs still on this channel? Because I'm going to be going live regardless to do with transfer news and stuff. But do you guys want watch-alongs on this channel to do with other teams? Because I can't do watch-alongs for West Ham United. So let me know in the chat if you guys want like watch-alongs on the channel where I do Palace Man United. I want you to be completely honest because I don't know whether I'm going to do them, but let me know if you enjoy them. I'll put up an effort to get them out to you lot. He's finally gone, yes. And Palace are going to be a problem next season. They beat Aston Villa 5-0 today. And Oliver Glasner, it might just be a new manager bounce, whatever. But if they keep their best players and still recruit well, obviously Dougie Freeman might go to Newcastle. But if they keep recruiting like players from the Championship or just young, hungry players, and they've already got the right experience to build around them, then they could definitely go for Europe next season. I'm pretty sure, by the way, this is their highest league position ever in the Premier League. I think they finished 10th. Let me have a look. They finished 10th. Now, let me go through the seasons then. Because I don't think Palace have finished higher than that. because usually there's a lot of big meme about Palace not finishing higher than 13th. Now let me share my screen. Let's share the screen. We're gonna have a look at the table together. Now Palace have finished 10th this season. Yeah, Palace are 10th here. Palace were 11th last season. 12th the season before. 14th the season before that. 1920 season they finished 14th. 12th in the 18-19 season. 17-18 they finished 11th. 16-17 they finished 14th. 15-16 they finished 15th. And this only goes back to 14-15. They finished 10th. Okay, so let me go on the Premier League app on my phone. Before the 14-15 season was the 13. I'm pretty sure 13-14 was their first. They finished 11th in the 13-14 season. And 12-13 they win the championship. I'm pretty sure they won. No, they won the playoffs against Watford. So this is their highest league position. Glasner's already got them there. And by the way, it proves that you can sack a dinosaur manager that is Roy Hodgson, who did a good job. Did a good job at the club. And they sacked him, or he left, or whatever. The guy was unwell anyway. And then they went out and hired an ambitious manager that had a balance of wanting to play football and getting the best out of their technical players, but also having a structure in their defence and knowing what he wanted to do in that area as well. And they're 10th. And he's been there, how long? Since March, April? They've been on a run. In fact, let's go to Crystal. I remember their first game. It was against Everton. Glasner's first game was Everton away. Have a look at this. Everton, this was his first game. I remember this. I'm pretty sure this was Roy Hodgson's last game. This was the first game. Beat Burnley. Okay, fair enough. They lost to Tottenham. Wait, what was this? What was this Bodo Glimt game? I don't remember this. So they get 10th to 11th, then down to 14-15. Is it because they just sell their players? Do you know what it is? It's because a lot of the times they don't spend money. They don't spend enough money. So when Zaha left the first time, it didn't work out for him. They got him back. When Balassi left, I'm pretty sure they replaced with Jordan Ayew, solid player and stuff. They don't really, before Vieira and before Eze returned to their club, they had a lot of just old English players anyway, and they had an aging squad. So Roy Hodgson was kind of just trying to stabilise them, because a lot of the times they were in relegation battles. So they got people like Pulis, like Warnock, like Holloway, like Allardyce, like Hodgson, to keep them up. Because when they tried playing football the first time, it didn't work, because with Frank de Boer, he got sacked at 7 games or some shit. They conceded late on against Luton. This is where they were frustrated. But then Palace, this was a bit of a rough patch for them. But what happened was that Liverpool game rejuvenated them. Then they beat us. They beat Newcastle. They drew to Fulham. They battered Man United. They beat Wolves. They battered Aston Villa. There was a couple games where Glasner didn't win, but you could see Glasner has his own thing. He's only just got there. It will take time. Can Palace finish in Europe next season? They definitely can. Can Bournemouth finish in Europe next season? They definitely can. So it's going to be hard next season. But this is what it's all about. We've got to recruit. Build the team around Kudus and Bowen. Alvarez in midfield. Kudus central in terms of playing behind the striker. Bowen on the right. Whether Kudus is playing in the 8 or 10, doesn't matter. Midfield 3. Emerson at left back. Areola in goal. Yeah, those 5. 5? 4. No, 5 players. Those 5 players I mentioned, that is the team we need to take forward because Paquetá's going. Build the team around them. We've got something. We've got something there. But, for example, Roy Hodgson's last game was against Chelsea. I remember that Brighton game where they got battered. Adam Wharton signed in that game, and Daniel Munoz, the right back. I hope we keep Paquetá as well, George, but I think it's very unlikely. Them two came in under Hodgson, but Dougie Freeman signed them. They needed a right back for time. I didn't even know if they needed a midfielder, but they probably needed someone like Wharton. And they've already got the best out of their squad. And Mateta wasn't even that good. But with coaching, you can get the best out of players that sometimes, they fade away. So maybe some players, and I mean some, maybe a couple players, maybe an Aguerd, maybe a Mavropanos, maybe they'll have a new lease of life under Lopetegui. Cornet definitely will if he wants to stay, because Cornet is a good player. Cornet is definitely a good player, but even Big Steve, when he was on the channel, he was confused on why Cornet wasn't playing either. But this is what Moyes does. So with new coaching, with a team that actually wants to coach on the ball, which is what Lopetegui should be doing. He obviously does like to focus on defense as well, which is fine by me. But with the players that we have, we definitely need coaching on the ball because you can get the best out of more players. Like look at for Mateta under Glasner compared to Mateta under Vieira and Hodgson. He's been way better. Now that doesn't mean that Palace don't need a striker because Mateta is probably the only good striker because Mateta's going through a purple patch, so he might not even hit the same heights as he has at the back end of this season. But Odsonne Edouard will probably have to leave for whatever reason. Mateta's been linked with like Napoli and PSG. I doubt he's going to get those moves. You should never sign a player off a purple patch. By the way, that's something that clubs always do. It's nowadays sign players off half a good season, one good season, or off a general purple patch that they never needed to sign them off. But yeah, what I was going to earlier about watch-alongs and streams, let me know if you guys want watch-alongs still. Just put a yes in the chat if you want to watch along. If you want more watch-alongs on the channel, like if you want me to do the Europa League one or Conference League final or the playoffs and stuff like that. So let me know if you want me to do that. If not, I won't do it. Simple as that. But I will be streaming regardless. It's just the watch-alongs will be a bonus as well. And with Crystal Palace next season, guys, they're just one of many teams that we'll be competing with. Now, we don't know what's going to happen to Wolves. We discussed this a week or two ago where Gary O'Neill said that they're going to have to sell to buy. So they'll be looking at like an Aït-Nouri maybe to sell, in my opinion, because I don't imagine they're going to sell a Neto or Cunha. I don't think anyone's going to go in for Pedro Neto because of his injury record. I don't think anyone's going to go in for Matheus Cunha. Yes, Europa and UCL. All right, come. I will do watch-alongs for those finals then. And conference, cool. I'll do that as well. We'll do a Fiorentina hate watch. I'll do a watch-along. I'll keep doing watch-alongs, and I'll try and save them for big games. I'll do watch-alongs for big games throughout next season then, because streaming is important to YouTube. To football YouTube, so I'm going to keep doing streaming. But it's just whether people want watch-alongs as well, and I'll do that because I will do pre-recorded videos still. Don't get me wrong, but that because I'm just I think the summer's going to be big. The summer's going to be big in terms of trying to grow the channel and stuff. By the way, just a quick pause. We're nearly on 300 subscribers. Like we're literally 3 subs away. So however you can get me there, that'll be great, guys. We're on the road to 500, as it says on the bottom, as I say every stream and every video. So thank you for all the support recently. And let's just carry on. But let's have a look at the league table again. Give me a sec. Let's have a look at the league table again because this is another important thing that I want to say. So obviously, West Ham could even probably finish like lower to the relegation places or up until the European places. Now, Villa, will they go in for top 4 again, or will they have a Newcastle season like Newcastle did this season? Newcastle got Conference League, that's good for them, unless Man United win the FA Cup, which I don't think will happen. God knows what Chelsea will do next season and Tottenham, whether they'll fall off under the second season under their new managers. Crystal Palace, we talked about them. Brighton, what's going to happen with Brighton? Which manager are they going to get in when Roberto De Zerbi's obviously left now? Bournemouth under Iraola, his second season. Will Fulham do anything? Wolves have finished 14th now. Will Fulham do anything under Marco Silva? I think Fulham will finish around these places next season regardless. And yeah, Brentford, you'd hope they'd have a better season because they've had a lot of injuries this season. And the others, and Forest and Everton will probably have another relegation battle, in my opinion. I feel like Forest always going to be down there unless they have a team with a lot of chemistry and stuff. And Forest and Everton are probably going to have to sell to buy, in my opinion. I don't know how much they can spend, especially Everton, because that Forest owner is going to spend regardless. But if we look at that table and go from, let's say, fourth place to Villa to 12th place to Bournemouth, West Ham I think West Ham will finish probably around these places for now. If we was to not have a good rebuild, it'll probably be lower. But under Lopetegui, I'm expecting no less than 12th. If there's anything less than 12th, it'll be a bit like, whoa, like what the fuck? But with the right coaching, you'd hope we'd be around European spaces again. I'm not expecting it instantly, but that is the eventual expectation, that is the eventual standard for the club, regardless of what manager comes in. Now, I don't know what kind of Lopetegui we are going to get, whether we're going to get the Wolves Lopetegui, the Sevilla Lopetegui, or whatever. Under Amorim, if we had Amorim, I would be expecting hopefully around here, and then eventually around here. But when we're not getting Amorim, but where do people think we're going to finish? If we was to have a rebuild and build around the right players, where do you how many teams are going to be competing for the same places again? Because the season just ended now. There's going to be a lot of question marks around teams like Manchester United. Are they going to get a new manager? Are Chelsea going to stick with Poch? Are Tottenham going to be as good as they were? Well, as good. Are they going to be as good whilst playing more than one game a week? Now they've got Thursday, Sunday football. So we will see. We will see. Because I don't think they're winning Europa League next season, but there's a lot of places to be had. With one game a week as well is a big advantage. It should be, the focus should be trying to install a style of play and an identity, and Amorim would be top 3. I don't know about top 3 because there's still Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City. But the goals next season should be having an identity at the club, try and build around the players that we have, try and get best out of the players that were struggling, rebuild the team, and install a new mentality where we are constantly competing with teams at the top in terms of over 90 minutes and stuff. That's just my opinion. Guys, I am going to end the stream there. We will talk more in the week. I'm going to try and get guests on the channel as well. And we're going to talk transfers, everything West Ham. I'll try and get an upload every day as much as I can. Thank you for the support recently. Make sure to subscribe and get us onto 300. And we'll eventually try and get onto 500 because that's the road to 500 subscribers. Try to hit that before the end of the year. And yeah, GVR Mike's on Twitter and Instagram, as you can see as well. And I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.